Hello guys, welcome to a new video. Today we are talking about, yes, you guessed it, Sadako. Who could have thought? Jokes aside, we are talking about if Sadako is healthy or unhealthy for the game. Because I've gotten some comments on my recent videos telling me that Sadako is so unhealthy, she doesn't belong in this game. You saw one guy in the other video that compared her to Skull Merchant. And I want to give my take on that. Now I've gone to every single of those comments and replied asking about why it's unhealthy, telling them to give me any kind of reason. And every single one of them replied, but also every single one of them except for one deleted all their comments after we were done. Which is sad, because it means I only can show off one of them. But before we go into that, let me bring up every point they told me about and then go after them one after another. So, first point we had, slugging. If slugging is healthy for the game or not is a completely different discussion, but I guess we have to go into that in a second. The second one was the kill rate. As you might know, at one point Sadako and Skull Merchant had the highest kill rates, therefore one guy said if both had similar kill rates, they both were unhealthy. We're gonna dive into that as well. And the last point somebody brought up was, she's just too different. Killers can be diverse, but they should conform to the rule set. And Sadako does not, because she doesn't hook. At the end, we are going to go into that one as well. And after I'm done with all these points, I'm gonna talk about what behavior does. What behavior seems to think, in which direction behavior's updates have been going. So stay tuned for that. For the slugging point, we actually still have the commenter, so we are going to go through that through my conversation with him. He said the problem is the condemned playstyle wasn't good or healthy for the game. Just slugging all 4 survivors over and over as you will condemn is frankly a boring playstyle and just not healthy for the game. So my main point with that, which I also replied, we're going into detail after I read out what I replied exactly, was what would be the difference between getting hooked until you're dead and downed until you're condemned, except for the addition of virtually infinite hook states due to never actually being hooked. Like seriously, what's the problem other than, well, other killers don't do it like that? My point of view is that it's more of a perception issue, right? If Sadako slugs you, Sadako specifically, we are not talking about other killers right now. If Sadako slugs you, what is she gonna do? It's the condemned playstyle, so she instantly gonna teleport away to other survivors, considering she can't condemn you in your state on the ground right now. She wants you to get up, so she's gonna leave. And the time it takes for somebody to pick you up from the ground or save you off the hook is pretty much the same if she instantly leaves. There's no point where somebody would save you if you were on the hook, but looks at you on the ground and is like, no, actually I don't want that right now. You know, there's no point where somebody would not save you because you're on the ground instead of a hook. He replied, the issue is slugging takes longer to kill a survivor than simply hooking them. Thus, they are forced to sit on the ground doing nothing. It's not interactive for either side. Again, I'm gonna read out my reply and then go into detail. I said, no, not slugging in general, slugging in the context of Sadako. I'm gonna explain that in a second. Since I am a Sadako main myself, you can probably imagine that I slug as well. Actually, I slug exclusively and I'm ending some games in 3 minutes. This is not me hyping myself up, it's just because he said it takes longer. The big problem here is that we tend to generalize slugging, but there's a big difference between other killers slugging and Sadako slugging. Other killers don't want you to get back up, while Sadako does want you to get back up, since she can't condemn you otherwise. And she can't camp the body because she has to go condemn the others. Added, slugging on other killers takes so long because other killers slug to stall something, while Sadako just slugs because it's a waste of pressure to hook for her. Going into detail for that, if we say killing through slugging, that's bleeding out. Of course that's longer than hooking, but that's not what Sadako is doing. She's not trying to bleed you out. She just wants the same pressure she would have if she hooked you without taking the walk to a hook and losing pressure by doing that. And yes, going to a hook is losing pressure for Sadako because it serves no purpose. She does a walk for no reason. And as you might know, a hook walk is the moment where people crank up gens, where people do tapes, you know, where people do all that stuff that's bad for Sadako. So she just stopped doing that since she doesn't have to. Other killers, of course, stall the game. So, for example, if a Oni is in power, he might slug you to get more than one guy on the hook. That means that you're not only on the ground for some time, but that you're also gonna be on the hook, which arguably is worse than just being slugged and then picked up like 10 seconds after. He replied it was still a very unhealthy playstyle, much like old Legion, 3-gen Skull Merchant, etc. By the way, no explanation on why it's unhealthy, just saying that it is because that's what makes it true. Sure, maybe you found it fun mostly because it was the only way to play her. It was not, Rekus Watch did exist, but it was miserable on the survivor's end, which also matters. No, Sadako slugging is not different, she only slugged because she had to, not because it was a strategy, much like Twins. She is in a much better spot for the most part. About survivors hating her, not exactly. I would say that I get the same amount of praise as I get insults when I play Sadako, which might surprise a lot of you. I get people actually telling me that they love to play against Sadako because it's different. There are Sadako mains that are excited if they see a Sadako condemning them. It is not as black and white as you might think, but of course the people that don't like her are a lot more noisy. The she only slugged because she had to is a thing I'm gonna go into on my next reply, but to talk about the she is in a much better spot now for the most part, not really. I would say that she actually slugs more than she used to. Right now the only people Sadako should ever hook are people with tapes, because it destroys the tape. Nobody should hook for the locked in condemn, it's really just not worth it. So there's not really a difference. The only thing here is that you remember it wrong. We as human beings tend to remember the bad things way worse than they actually were. We kind of amplify the feeling as time goes on, which leads to misconceptions like those. Anyways, I replied, I mean, there was always the choice to hook. Like the hooks didn't just disappear, and she doesn't have a reason like Twins with Charlotte would have to walk over. I can tell you this as somebody who played Sadako back then as well. The slugging was a choice, it was just a matter of why hook if I don't want to kill them that way. It was not a necessity. After that he stopped replying, which is the end of that point. Slugging as a whole I would not even think is unhealthy for the game, even on other killers, especially on Sadako. The time somebody would need to get you off hook is virtually the same as they would need to pick you up, and no matter if you're on the ground or on the hook, you can't do anything in that time anyways. It's not more interactive to be on a hook, right? That's one of the things he said. Slugging is less interactive for both sides. Of course he didn't explain why, because there's no reason. In both cases you can't really do anything. We just have a way worse outlook on slugging than we have on hooks, because hooks are a necessary evil. We have to accept them, so we don't see them as bad. Now let's talk about the kill rate. As you might know, OG Sadako had very high kill rates together with Skull Merchant. The person arguing with me stated that because they had similar kill rates, they would be the same. Now I don't have to tell you why Skull Merchant had these high kill rates. Her playstyle would lock the game down for 2 hours with virtually no way of winning. Either you die doing gens or you die by hiding when the server shut down. But let's come to the reason why Sadako's kill rates were so high. I would say it has become a little bit of a meme, but people always refused to do Sadako's counterplay, and it's a problem that's persisting to this day, right? The best example I can give is Sadako 2.0. You know, the strong one where you were condemned anywhere on the map? People just had to take a tape up their ass and they would be fine. But as a Sadako main, as you can see in all the videos, people sometimes just refuse to do it. And well, I say sometimes, but I mean 90% of the time. And I'm playing on mid to high MMR. I'm not saying I'm playing on the highest one, okay? I do not. But I am between mid to high. And people, even on that MMR, just refuse to do it. On the other hand, people on low MMR probably don't even know that they can interact with the TVs because nobody actually takes them. If we take those two things into account, of course the kill rates were that high. Imagine Pinhead's kill rates, which already are pretty high, if nobody would just touch the box. You know, if everybody just refused to do it and there was a chain hunt 24/7. Of course his kill rates would go up. Imagine Trapper, even Trapper, if nobody would disarm his traps because they would say it's a waste of time. Good luck with fucking Basement Trapper then. Imagine, Pig, if the survivors just wouldn't turn off the bear traps on their heads that have a literal timer to their death. Imagine if survivors would ignore Pyramid Head, Trail of Torment, which they kinda do anyways, and just did not dodge his M2. Imagine if nobody would dodge Huntress's M2, nobody would watch out for orbitals, nobody would care about Xenomorph's audio cue, nobody would dodge Wesker's tentacle. You know, the list just goes on and on. If you don't do the counterplay, if you don't do the one thing that allows you to escape, you won't escape. Simple as that. And that's the reason why Sadako's kill rates were so high. Because even when her counterplay was the easiest it has ever been, people were refusing to do it. And that's the big thing, right? Even though her kill rate was that high, OG Sadako, right? You might have forgotten it, but she was a contender for the weakest killer in the game. Yes, now the memories come back for all of you. She was actually contender for the weakest killer in the game. And to end it at this point, because I think I've explained it enough, survivors refusing to do the counterplay is not unhealthy. Well, at least not for the game, maybe it is for the survivors. But there's more ignorance, which I would say doesn't surprise me in the Dead by Daylight community. And to come to the finale, to the last point before we talk about what behavior seems to think. She is too different. She doesn't care about the rules. She does not need to hook. And on that, I say that's more subjective, and I don't really agree. That's really the gist of it. I think that making killers special is something we should do. I would actually be happy if we would introduce more alternative killing ways. I think it's something that would be actually very healthy for the game, as many people say it becomes stale. Many people right now with the current updates are saying that all the special things about killers get taken away. You know, we lost light burn, we lost all that stuff, and people don't like it. People say it's healthy for killers to be special. And I agree on that. So I would say that telling me that she is too special is a little bit hypocritical in my opinion. So that has been all the points people gave me. Should I say debunked? Not really, it's more like my opinion on those. You can of course also type your opinion about those points in the comments right now so I can read them and maybe have them in a video later. The support for those videos where I talk about Dead by Daylight, specifically Sadako, has been insane, and I'm planning on doing a video about what people don't know about her lore-wise in the DBD community, because there is many things people get wrong. Like now I have seen Asimov's new video. There were so many points wrong about Sadako lore-wise, it's insane. Nothing against him, I love his video honestly. I think it would be better if he had double-checked some of his sources a little bit better. So now about what behavior thinks about Condemn playstyle as a whole. If you look at the updates Sadako has received over the years, we can almost say, there was always one thing they did do, and that is focusing on letting players condemn people. The 2.0 version was actually behavior trying to make Condemn Sadako, the playstyle, more accessible for worse players. They were actually endorsing condemning people. Even now with the newest version, they still try to let you condemn people. They are for it. They want you to do it. They like that Sadako is special in that regard. And you can read it in their patch notes. They always talk positively about condemning people. And with that said, here's the conclusion. I personally don't think it's unhealthy, but it doesn't matter what I think. It doesn't really matter what you think either. Behavior is for condemn. Behavior endorses condemn. Behavior thinks it's healthy. And with that, I rest my case. Thank you for watching the video. We have a Discord, we have a Twitch, both in the description below. I would appreciate a like, or if you would subscribe, and see you next time.
I love this guy. This Kuro.
Yeah, Kuro's awesome. He's awesome.
Yeah.
Kuro, no one appreciates you.